Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu and with me is Anita Anand, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Afghanistan Ambassador to India Farid Mamunzai in an interview to AIR warns global community of dangers of terrorism, lauds India's humanitarian aid to Afghanistan in difficult times. External Affairs Minister of India Dr. S. Jaisalmed visits Philippines to hold talks on developments in bilateral relations. Indian Space Research Organization to launch PSLV C-52 carrying 3 satellites on Monday. Asian Development Bank terms Pakistan as among least open economies in the world. United States to open embassy in the Solomon Islands to counter China's influence in Pacific. Top diplomats of Japan, South Korea and the United States declare the unity against North Korea after series of ballistic missile launches by Pyongyang. World Radio Day celebrated across the globe. The theme, Radio and Trust echoes everywhere. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi greets all radio listeners on World Radio Day. Desert Festival gets underway in Jaisalmed in western Indian state of Rajasthan. With the new Omicron variant of coronavirus causing concern, we appeal to our listeners to be vigilant and to get fully vaccinated and help others, including children between 15 and 18 years, to get vaccinated. Please continue to follow these 3 simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011 23 978046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan to India, Farid Mamunzai, has warned the global community of the dangers of terrorism. In an exclusive interview to All India Radio, Mr. Mamunzai said that terrorism in Afghanistan is not a homegrown phenomenon, rather an imported one. It has harmed the lives of Afghan people and is a threat to the stability and security in the region and beyond. The ambassador lauded India's humanitarian aid to Afghanistan in the difficult times. He thanked New Delhi for being one of the largest regional donors to Afghanistan. He expressed his gratitude for the Parliament building and the India-Afghanistan Friendship Dam. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you an exclusive interview with Ambassador of Afghanistan in India, Farid Mamunzai. The interviewer is AIR Special Correspondent Dr. Atul Kumar Tiwari.
Namaskar and welcome. Today we have with us the Ambassador of Afghanistan in India, His Excellency Farid Mamunzai. He took over as the Ambassador of Afghanistan to India in March 2021. In his previous assignment, Ambassador Mamunzai has served as an advisor to the Afghanistan Minister of Foreign Affairs during 2020 to 2021. He has also worked as a senior political advisor at the National Security Council of Afghanistan during 2016 till 2019. In addition, he has served as Deputy Director General for Policy and Technical Affairs at the Independent Directorate of Local Governance in Afghanistan from 2011 to 2015. Ambassador Mamunzai has worked for several UN and international development agencies as a consultant. He holds a master's degree in international accounting and finance from the University of Birmingham. He has published several articles for academic journals on governance and development studies. Welcome once again to our show, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Ambassador, when you took over as the Afghan envoy to India, your first tweet said it all. India is a generous neighbor who has stood with Afghanistan in difficult times and have shared their bread with us. Your thoughts for our listeners?
Well, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to come to this historic building today and speak to your good self and be on All India Radio, a radio service that we have been listening to for many years in Afghanistan. And the tweet that you just talked about is an example of that generosity that India has always displayed India has stood by us in thick and thin and always provided us with the support that we required, not only in the spectrum of security and defense, but also the economic assistance, the development help, the humanitarian support that we are currently receiving, all those generosity or acts of generosity that India has extended in the past 20 plus years now. We are very grateful for the generous support extended by every government in New Delhi from 2001 onward, and more importantly, the historic connect between our people has been always there, has always been strong. I hope that this relation would get even more stronger in the years ahead, in the years to come, and I pray for even more better bilateral ties under these difficult circumstances.
As you said so, difficult circumstances. As the events unfold around us, we can see Afghanistan passing through a difficult phase indeed. A change of guard, shortage of food grains, and economy in duress. How do you look at the current situation and what could be the way forward?
The current situation is very dire. We are going through a very difficult time. As a nation, we are facing a free fall of our political structures. We are facing a free fall of the economy and a free fall of our social fabric. It is indeed a difficult time for the entire country. We hope, the nation hopes, that the next few months prove to be somewhat different in terms of forming a government which would be acceptable to all Afghans. Our senior leaders like President Karzai, Dr. Abdullah, former Senate Speaker Mr. Muslim Yar, and many others are still in Kabul. They are still present there, and they are hoping that there would be some common sense prevailed among senior Taliban figure to consider shaping an inclusive government which would include all political parties, all ethnic groups, and would hopefully allow the political process to take place where we could get international recognition.
Ambassador, really nice to hear from you a positive outlook in the times to come and time frame down the line where we can see the situation improving for a better and new Afghanistan. As we might recall, the international community has called the formation of a truly inclusive government in Afghanistan, and it has said that for a lasting peace, what is required is the elimination of UN Security Council proscribed terror groups. It has also urged the Taliban government to take actions in line with the outcomes of all international and regional mechanisms on Afghanistan and at UN institutions. It has also asserted that Afghanistan's soil should not be used to threaten or to attack any other country, to say so. How would you react to this proposition, sir?
That's a very valid point that you touched on. Afghanistan has been suffering from the menaces of terrorism for the past almost 30 odd years. There has been the presence of international foreign fighters in our country. There are 20 internationally designated terrorist outlets operating in Afghanistan. So we don't want to be perpetual victims of a foreign imposed situation where our people are giving sacrifices for something that doesn't belong to us. Terrorism is not a homegrown phenomena in Afghanistan. It has been an imported phenomena in our country. This is important. Terrorism doesn't only threaten the way we live or to our lives, but terrorism is a serious danger to regional stability and regional security. And also, it is a threat to the security and stability of countries beyond this region. So, core of the issue here is again having a government in place which is accountable, which is transparent, and that accountability and transparency would only be possible when there is inclusivity. Once we have an inclusive government, there would be balance and checks, and after ensuring those balances and checks, we can ensure that there is no presence of foreign fighters. Afghanistan soil is then made sure that it is not used against any country in the region.
Ambassador, you spoke about having an inclusive, a reasonable, a rational regime which really proscribes to the democratic values and to see to it that whatever gains which Afghanistan has seen over the past 20 decades is not undermined, right? So what have been the gains which have really lost currency in this dispensation?
There has been a lot of political gain, or rather gains, in the past 20 years. We drafted our first modern constitution back in 2002 and 3. Afghanistan was able to make a constitution which protected the rights of every citizen, every ethnic group. There has been a lot of nationwide consultation. Compare that the duration that took India to form a constitution. Secondly, we had the first ever democratically held election in our history. A proud history of 275 years almost. We have been able to hold the first democratically held election in 2004. And since then we had 4 presidential elections. We had thrice parliamentary elections. We had 4 times provincial councils elections, where decisions were made on democratic principles, where no monopoly of power were allowed by 2 or by any group or individuals. There was a thriving democratic growth. We were gradually marching towards a state where the rights of all groups, all political thoughts, all political entities were protected by the Constitution. There were no imposed regimes or no imposed ideologies. If people want to adopt to certain ideologies, let that be their choice. As we have that the case in a 2 democratic system that exists in India to a larger extent. You could be from whatever political affiliation. The Constitution has protected your rights. Now, our biggest loss here is the loss of Constitution. Since the past 6 months, the Constitution has been suspended. And with the suspension with Constitution, there is no president, no parliament, no minister. Our minister used to get vote of confidence from parliament. Today we have ministers, but there is no vote of confidence. There is no elected body. We still hope that Taliban would be able to come up with a political roadmap in the months ahead. And that's what we hear from our international partners, that give it some time for the next 2 to 3 months till April, May.
Well, Ambassador, can you share some light in terms of the popularity or how popular is the Indian popular culture in Afghanistan?
There may hardly be any Afghan who would have not come across Indian music. Indian music has a special place in our society. We play Indian songs at our weddings, at our parties, because the vibe that we get from Indian music is not there in many other musics, particularly when the music is from Punjab or when it is from Maharashtra, from the Bollywood. So we, in our older generation, were very fond of the late Lata Mangeshkar ji. They were very fond of Jagjit Singh ji. So this has passed on from one generation to another generation. Our younger generation now, of course, they follow the most advanced or the modern Indian music, from rock to hip-hop, from classical music to ghazals. That exist. I think the similarity in our poetry, the similarity in our music has been there for centuries. People like Rabindranath Tagore ji has been a key influencer among our modern poets. So if you look at the poetry of Ghani Khan, the son of Bacha Khan or Abdul Ghaffar Khan, he was greatly influenced by Rabindranath Tagore.
Ambassador, at the beginning of our interview, you said that All India Radio holds a special place in the minds of the people from Afghanistan. And recently, we at All India Radio enhanced the broadcast of our external services in Dari and Pashto, and the transmission time has almost been doubled. How do you look at this feature and your advice or your inputs in terms of further advancing our approach?
While growing up back in the 90s, early 90s or late 80s, we used to hear a word, Akashwani. So there used to be an announcement at that time that, yeah, Akashwani. And we sometimes thought that this is Akashwani is a person. It was this visit today to All India Radio, to the studio. There's a history of almost 30 years behind it. And I'm very thrilled, very pleased to eventually come here together with a member of my family. Doubling the time of both our languages, Pashto and Dari, is something that has been welcomed by many people that I have spoken to. Like I said earlier, that India holds a special place in our hearts and minds. We would want greater India's involvement, not only in the political spectrum of our lives, but also in the entertainment, news, current affairs. India has been a strategic partner, as we discussed earlier. So the rightful space should be there when it comes to media, entertainment, news, current affairs, and so on. All India Radio has been doing a very unique job in connecting the two countries in a very unique way. We have very fond memories of people like Mr. Batra. While growing up at that time, we were familiar to his sound. I think it's time that my suggestion to Radio India would be to continue giving time and attention and resources to this section by bringing the right number of people who understand the Afghan culture, the Afghan language as well, and conduct regular survey of the desires or needs of those people by broadcasting the right programs, the right initiatives.
Well, Ambassador, it has really been a pleasure talking to you, and thanks a lot for sparing your valuable time with All India Radio.
Thank you. Dhanyawad.
This is All India Radio, giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Welcome back to World News. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaisalmed is reaching the Philippines on Sunday on a 3-day official visit. This is his first visit to the country as the External Affairs Minister. Dr. Jaisalmed will hold talks with his counterpart Teodoro L. Locsin Jr., the Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines. The ministers will review developments in bilateral relations since the meeting of the Joint Commission on Bilateral Cooperation that they co-chaired in virtual format in November 2020. Regional and international issues of mutual interest would also be discussed. In addition to other meetings, Dr. Jaisalmed will also interact with the Indian community in Manila. The Indian Space Research Organization ISRO is set to launch the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle PSLV C-52 at 5:59 hours on Monday from the first launch pad of Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. The PSLV C-52 mission will launch 3 satellites. One of the satellites to be launched is EOS-04 radar imaging satellite weighing 1,710 kilograms. EOS-04 is designed to provide high-quality images under all weather conditions for applications such as agriculture, forestry and plantation, soil moisture, and hydrology and flood mapping. This satellite will be positioned into a sun-synchronous polar orbit as a co-passenger INS-2DD technology demonstrator satellite, and InspireSat-1 student satellite will also be launched. INS-2DD is a precursor to India-Bhutan joint satellite INS-2B. The PSLV C-52 will be the 54th launch in the PSLV series.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi met former Prime Minister of Kenya Raila Amolo Odinga, who is currently in India on a private visit. The two leaders share friendly personal relations going back decades. Mr. Modi expressed his happiness at being able to meet Mr. Odinga after almost 3.5 years. He recollected his multiple interactions with Mr. Odinga since 2008 in both India and Kenya, as well as the latest support to the vibrant Gujarat summit in 2009 and 2012. The two leaders also discussed other issues of mutual interest. Mr. Modi expressed his commitment to further strengthening India-Kenya relations. The Agricultural Products Export Development Authority APEDA celebrated its 36th Foundation Day on Sunday. APEDA actively supported the government in taking the export of agricultural products to $20.67 billion in 2020-21 from $0.6 billion in 1986 when it was founded. The Commerce and Industry Ministry said it also helped to expand the export basket to several countries. The target given to APEDA in the current financial year is $23.7 billion, out of which more than 70% has been achieved till January this year.
Pakistan has one of the lowest trade to GDP ratios at just 30% according to the Asian Development Bank ADB. The ADB says Pakistan is a relatively large country. However, its trade openness remains remarkably low. It is only more open than Ethiopia, Brazil and Sudan. Pakistan has historically experienced uneven growth and remains among the least open economies in the world, even after taking its relatively large size into account, says the report. ADB, in its report titled Pakistan's Economy and Trade in the Age of Global Value Chain, says the economic openness of Pakistan is less than India and Bangladesh, reported dawn. Furthermore, Pakistan's exports are mostly dependent on textile products and thus its trade is less diversified. It mentions that Pakistan's exports are less diversified than India's. Moreover, India's GDP is almost 10 times larger than Pakistan, according to the report. The United States will open an embassy in the Solomon Islands. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said this on Saturday as he committed more diplomatic and security resources into the Pacific as a counter to China's drive for greater influence. Mr. Blinken in Fiji for virtual summit of the Pacific Islands Forum of Regional Leaders heard their concerns about the need for genuine action on climate change and complaints that they had long been overlooked by bigger nations. Addressing a press conference along with Fiji's acting Prime Minister Ayaz Said Hayu, Mr. Blinken said that Fiji and all the Pacific Island nations are a vital part of the Indo-Pacific region.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said the imminent threat of Russian military action in Ukraine justifies evacuating the U.S. embassy in Kiev. His words came after Ukraine's president urged calm, saying the biggest enemy was panic. More than a dozen countries have urged their citizens to leave Ukraine. Moscow, with more than 100,000 troops near the border, has denied its plans to invade. The Kremlin's top foreign policy advisor Yuri Yushakov has dismissed U.S. warnings of an attack, saying hysteria has reached its peak. The top diplomats of Japan, South Korea and the United States have declared their unity against North Korea after a series of ballistic missile launches by Pyongyang. After a day of meetings in Honolulu, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, South Korean Foreign Minister Chung Eui-yong and Japanese Foreign Minister Hayashi Yoshimasa condemned the series of 7 launches as destabilizing in a joint statement on Saturday. They said Pyongyang needs to cease its unlawful activities and instead engage in dialogue. Mr. Blinken told a press conference that North Korea is in a phase of provocation.
World Radio Day is being celebrated on Sunday across the globe. The day is observed every year on 13th of February to stress the importance of radio. It is also a day to remember the unique power of radio, which touches lives and brings people together from every corner of the globe. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has greeted all radio listeners and those who enrich this outstanding medium with their talent as well as creativity on World Radio Day. In a series of tweets, Mr. Modi said, "Be it at home, during journeys and otherwise, the radio remains an integral part of people's lives. It is an amazing medium to connect people." The Prime Minister said due to Man Ki Baat, he has repeatedly seen how the radio can be a great medium to share positivity as well as recognize those who are at the forefront of bringing a qualitative change in the lives of others. Mr. Modi thanked all those who contribute to this program. All India Radio Delhi presented a 7-hour talkathon on its FM Rainbow channel from 8 in the morning to 4 in the evening. On this occasion, we have a report.
As part of the talkathon, AIR organized a half-an-hour open forum on Sunday morning on FM Rainbow, during which Principal Director General of All India Radio, N. Venudhar Reddy, interacted with the listeners on the topic Credibility of All India Radio.
Best wishes to all our listeners on World Radio Day today. For the past 90 years or more, All India Radio has been striving to give entertainment, education and information to our listeners, and it has been a part of their lives for a long time now. We request all our listeners to give their feedback to us so that we redefine ourselves every day to become more relevant to their lives.
Mr. Reddy said that AIR has kept its credibility for decades, and the credit for it goes to generations of broadcasters, people behind the mic, as well as those who worked on the desk for preparing news bulletins and different types of programs. He said in January this year, international news organization Reuters had a survey on credibility of media organizations, and AIR was on the top of the survey. He said during the pandemic, AIR broadcast credible and reliable information and also the advice of qualified doctors in different languages every day. Participating in the talkathon, Additional Director General News Dr. Atul Kumar Tiwari said AIR has kept the trust of the people and connect with them through its credible broadcast. He said earlier AIR was on medium wave and shortwave, and now it is available in many digital platforms like mobile app, YouTube, Twitter and podcast. Dr. Tiwari said AIR also broadcast in 17 foreign languages. On Monday, there will be an open house session with Prasar Bharati CEO Shashi Shekhar Vempati from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., which will be repeated between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. on the same day. To connect with the CEO in open house, listeners may send their request through WhatsApp number 9868107070 or can dial toll-free number 1800-111-1026. These programs can also be heard on Akashvani AIR YouTube. Rely on it for the consumption of news and for entertainment purposes. On the occasion of World Radio Day, a listener, Dr. Laseng Zela from Aizawl in Mizoram, shared his memories of All India Radio.
All India Radio has been our staple for as long as I can remember. My father would tune in for the news from early morning and is a window for us to get to know about the happenings around the world. Today, FM has brought me the news, the music, the latest songs in my car on my way to my office and while driving back. Thanks to All India Radio and my best wishes.
The Indian ambassador in Antananarivo, Madagascar, and to Comoros, Abhay Kumar said he is an ardent listener of AIR.
My name is Abhay Kumar. I'm India's ambassador to Madagascar and Comoros. I wish everyone today a very happy World Radio Day. I grew up listening to radio and I still listen to radio. It is such a joy to listen to songs, news and other programs. Radio is a complete set in itself which brings so much of joy to our lives. I would recommend everyone to listen to radio. These days, radio is available on internet as well, and one can listen to the radio all across the world, wherever one is.
In the Indian western state of Rajasthan, the month of February is the time of myriad colourful festivals and fairs. The rural land enjoys folk dance, music, heritage and various cultural festivities this time. The world-famous Jaisalmed Desert Festival, also known as Maru Mahotsav of the Golden City, began at Pokhran on Sunday. The 4-day-long festival started with colourful grand procession followed by Miss Pokhran and Mr. Pokhran competitions. Tourism Department of Rajasthan, associating with district administration, is organising Maru Mahotsav this time after 2 years break due to the spread of COVID pandemic.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. First, some reports from China. The Times of India writes that External Affairs Minister S. Jaisankar on Saturday blamed China for the current line of actual control situation, saying Beijing had violated written agreements by amassing forces along the border and this is an issue of legitimate concern for the entire international community. While confirming that the issue came up at the Quad meeting on Friday, Dr. Jaisankar also said repeated criticism by China won't make the Quad any less credible. Let us take a look at what made the headlines in Nepal. Kantipur Daily headline reads, Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba had discussed with the top leaders of the ruling coalition the expansion of his cabinet. It came up for discussion in a meeting with CPN Chairman Pushpa Kamal Dahal and CPN Unified Socialist Chairman Madhav Kumar Nepa on Saturday morning. Now some press news from Bangladesh. A Bangladeshi national is included among the 5 UN staff members who have been abducted in southern Yemen. Family members told Pratham Alo. Sufiul Alam was working as UN security observer in Yemen. And a quick look at the headlines once again. Afghanistan ambassador to India Farid Mamunzai in an interview to AIR warns global community of dangers of terrorism, lauds India's humanitarian aid to Afghanistan in difficult times. External Affairs Minister of India Dr. S. Jaisalmed visits Philippines to hold talks on developments in bilateral relations. Indian Space Research Organization to launch PSLV C-52 carrying 3 satellites on Monday. Asian Development Bank's terms Pakistan as amongst least open economies in the world. World Radio Day celebrated across the globe. The theme Radio and Trust echoes everywhere. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi greets all radio listeners on World Radio Day. Dessert Festival gets underway in Jaisalmed in Western Indian state of Rajasthan. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.
ये आकाशवाणी है। अब आप रत्ना पांडे से समाचार सुनिए।